Saw an interesting report this morning that a number of companies, and I know Volkswagen was named as one of them, Goldman Sachs, are starting to create rules for their employees. And it is, don't be emailing one another at night. Don't do it on the weekend. Come in here, work hard, then knock it off. In fact, the suggestion was that Volkswagen as a corporation is going to shut people's work email off 30 minutes after they leave work. Dr. Oren Amitay, registered psychologist, is here. Is this a smart move on the part of employers?
It is, because we're so wired, and when you have that technology following you home, it's difficult for some people to disengage and take the time away from work that they need to recuperate.
Just a second, I'm getting them. No, but that's what happens. I mean, it takes away sometimes from the time you're supposed to spend with friends and family, or maybe even just being by yourself.
Well, exactly. And the most ambitious people, they're going to put as many hours into the day as they can. And if that day can be extended into the night and into like just before they go to bed, then some people just don't have that cutoff point themselves. So it's important sometimes for companies to set a limit, because in the end, when the people burn themselves out, when they get sick, when they take sick days, it actually harms the productivity.
You know what I think also happens? You got the eager beaver at work who sends out the 9:30 p.m. Email, I need some figures for this report tomorrow, and CC's the boss. So the boss knows that he or she is working, right, and then we'll just see who else is working, you know, and then you figure, okay, I got to respond to this now.
Right, you know, someone else is setting the bar and you don't want to be seen to be a slacker. It all depends on the norms. So if the norms are everyone's pushing themselves till they die, which happened in Japan a number of years ago, it was called karoshi. So many salarymen or businessmen were dropping dead at work. So there's this phenomenon they called karoshi, which means basically overworked to death. So the bar was set so high and they all aspired to reach that. So sometimes you need someone to bring it down, set the norm, and be healthier.
I talked about this on my radio show earlier today, and I got a text message from a guy who said, look, you want to call me at 9 o'clock at night or email me and get me involved in a project, I don't have a problem with that. I'm coming in at 10 in the morning.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's compensating for
balancing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it all comes down to that in life, doesn't it? Balance. Now, for some people, working all the time is their life, and that's okay. I think what companies are saying is don't drag everybody else into that.
Pretty much, and they're trying to look out for the best interests of the people who can't cut themselves off. Although, let's not fool ourselves. I don't know if companies are doing it for their best interest or the bottom line.
Well, sure, but it's bottom line if you've got productive people. And sometimes people can be productive in a full day at work, and then if they come back rested, they can be productive again.
Right.
So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about a totally different topic. A conversation you and I had that I thought would be fascinating to have here for a few minutes, and it's the dark side of hoarding. I think you can watch something like Hoarders on TV and think, well, it's weird, but it's just kind of amusing, not to paint a broad brush over everybody who gets into hoarding, saving every newspaper in their life and that sort of thing. But you're saying there's actually a darker side to it.
Exactly. I've got some patients who are the children of hoarders, and unlike the benign, quirky characters that are portrayed on TV, some of their parents, the hoarding, it's a manifestation of something much deeper and darker. It's manipulative, it's controlling, and the children who are raised in this environment, they don't know what is up and what is down. There's a lot of shame involved. They are made to feel that they are less important than the objects that the parents are hoarding, and beyond that, sometimes the parents are really cruel. Some of my patients call them evil. They say that their parents have done horrific, terrible things to them, physically, psychologically, sexually. They've tortured them, and the hoarding, again, is just one sign of the depravity that these hoarders have. And not all of them, just some of them.
And are some of them just kind of mixed up people who can't throw a newspaper away?
Well, some are, and we don't even know. I mean, hoarding is a relatively newly understood disorder, and we're still learning about it. So there are many different types of hoarders. Some can be helped. Some realize that it's a problem. A lot of others are almost delusional in their beliefs, especially when it comes to animals, because they have animals dying in their care. They're not feeding them. They're leaving corpses everywhere. The animals are sick, and it's disgusting, yet in their mind, they truly believe they're helping them.
And there's a story out of Manitoba that got you and I talking about this, where a 24-year-old mother of 3 children under the age of 5 exhibited some traits of hoarding, but also would just kind of like board the kids up in a room and just disappear for periods of time.
Exactly, and that kind of person, I mean, to think that what they're doing is okay, to not have any empathy for the children, that's what my patients have experienced, that the hoarder had absolutely no regard for the children whose lives they were ruining, and they continue to ruin it as they go into adulthood.
So a room full or a house full of old newspapers may just be the more visual manifestation of some real deeper issues going on.
Exactly. And some of the hoarders, they don't actually hoard in that way. It's more of a hoarding of this is mine and you can't touch this. And the children are made to feel like they're always walking on eggshells because God forbid you cross this imaginary line that the parents have drawn.
So those little children we were just talking about could have been seen more as possessions than where we're responsible for our kids and they're our kids, but we sort of take a different attitude as opposed to them being possessions.
Exactly. They are human beings that we are devoted to. We want to care for them and love them and raise them as best we can. But some hoarders don't have that capacity.
All right. Appreciate you coming by.
Well, thank you as always for having me.
Good to have you.